Sure. So my name's Chuck Ross. I'm with Air Reps, and we're the local representative for ABB variable frequency drives. How many of you are familiar with ABB variable frequency drives or variable frequency drives in general? So I don't have to go into drive theory on how it works. I will, if anybody wants to know.
You guys want to hear it? This is for you guys, so do you want to hear it? Now's your chance. Why don't you give us a brief?
Sure. So they're basically motor controllers. They take voltage in, three-phase voltage in, and they put out a three-phase voltage out, varying the frequency. So basically it's to speed up, slow down fans to, or pumps to adapt to the load that's happening in the building. So it gives one, it gives you more controllability, it's easier on the equipment, and two, it saves you a ton of energy. So that's really what variable frequency drives are installed for. So from an operations perspective, these are, by the fact they have MAC IDs means they're probably talking to your direct digital control system. I think you guys have Honeywell, is that the? So I'm not sure if they're BACnet or LAN. Are you guys BACnet or LAN out here?
BACnet.
BACnet. So you guys will be talking BACnet. So pretty much all the information that's available in the drive is now available to you through the DDC system. It's just a matter of mapping those points in. So there will be some sort of a specification. The controls engineers already mapped that stuff in, and it's going to be part of your graphics and part of your sequence of operation. As far as operating these things, there's not much for you to do from a maintenance perspective. Inside here, and I'll leave these with you guys. I'll leave these with you, Sam. Those are basically operation maintenance manuals. The two things to key on for maintenance is one, inside here, tightening up the line voltage lugs, right? Making sure that the connections are tight. And then in the back here, there's a heat sink with a fan. So really, I would say on at least a yearly basis, mechanical rooms like this, a lot of dust can build up. There's a heat sink back here that's getting rid of all the heat that's being produced by the drive, slowing down the fan. There's a bunch of capacitors and stuff in here that heat up. So the fans on the top, typically it's just a removable plastic fan with a plug. You pull the fan out, pull the plug, and again, that's all in the manual. Typically what we do is pull the fan out, compressed air on the top, a vacuum on the bottom, and just blow out the fins. Do it one way, do it the other, and that's it for maintenance. As far as operating, if there's an alarm, typically it will come out to your DDC system. It will also show up on your keypad. It'll tell you, there'll be an alarm code. I believe the alarm codes are all in there. That'll tell you whether it's an over voltage, under voltage, whether it's lost its signal, whether it's lost a phase. They're really good at protecting motors, so if something happens to the service in the building, it will protect the motor and itself. That's it for ABBs. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this set to restart after power outage?
I'm not sure. I'll go through that when we're done here, and I'll answer that. I don't know how. Yeah. I didn't do the startup.
They will.
Yeah. So I didn't do the startup, so I'm not sure how they got them set up. But typically, we set them up for a number of restarts. So there'll be 5 restarts, probably tries every 15 seconds for up to 90 seconds. We enable overcurrent and under voltage, because that's typically what happens when we switch over to emergency power. We either have a current spike or we'll have a voltage drop. So it'll see that, it'll stop, and then depending on how it's set, either between 5 and 15 seconds, it'll try again, and then it'll come right back up, right? Unless there's a long period of time where it's a problem, and then it'll just fault out. What's that?
What's the speed? 0 to 10 volts DC? Or?
I'm not sure how these are set up. I believe that a lot of times when it's over communication, they'll do all that stuff over communication, so they'll send the speed over communication. The best practices that I've seen is a hardwire start-stop and a hardwired speed, and then is that what they've got?
Yeah, that's the speed signal.
Okay. So 0 to 10 volts, so you'll have a 0 to 10 volt signal here, and on your screen it'll tell you right here the percentage of the signal. 0% 0 volts, 10 or 100% is 10 volts, and so right now I think we're getting a 50% signal here, which is 5 volts.
Do you guys have a copy of all the parameters that are inside the...
Did you, the copy of all the parameters, who did this? Do you know who started these up?
I don't remember the tag. It was
Okay.
environmental control. Somebody came out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so somebody will have all those
Somebody in
parameters.
Apollo had the
Probably would give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the keypad that come off?
Yeah, keypad will come off. Now, I'm not sure. I'll check here. There's two different things that can happen when you pull the keypad off. One, it just shuts off. Two, it'll go to a pre-programmed speed. Or three, it'll just retain the last speed. So typically, we leave that as last speed. So if you want to pull it off, because the jack to plug in your the service tool or the programming tool for the computer is in behind here. Since this one isn't running, I'll check this one. So that's under 3002, so it's already set up here as last speed. So if you remove the panel, you'll still get a little flashing light behind here. Right? It'll start to flash here that there's a problem, but it won't do it. It'll record the fault, but it won't. It'll just keep the fan or the pump at the last speed. So basically, behind here, you plug in your Cat5 cable, which goes to a laptop. I think Mac Miller probably has the software for that. We did a whole training class for them on starting up the drives. And that's where you would download all your parameters if you made changes. The other thing that happens is the keypad is the backup for the drive. So once you program the drive, the parameters get backed up to the keypad. So if anything happens to the drive, make sure you keep the keypad, because it'll make it a lot easier to reinstall a new drive.
Is that why there's a port on the back so that you can download it?
No, it's just a communication plug.
The information that's stored into that?
It's stored in here, but it's also backed up here. So if there's a problem with the drive, if something were to happen that you had some sort of a voltage spike or a current spike, just take the keypad and download.
You have to do something, or it's just download it?
You just go into the parameters and download the code, and it'll download all the parameters. And you can either download it full parameter set, which would do all your motor data, or you could just do the application. So if you change this from a 25 horse drive to a 15 horse drive, but it still had the same application, it was still doing the same thing, you could actually still download the application from here, but it wouldn't take the motor data, because the motor data will be different. Yeah, but you can change it through here. So.
Does ABB have that capability of storing data into that for the older models or just the newer models?
Well, define the older models, because this one's been out since 2002.
I would say older than that.
So originally it was the 500. Well, there were some before the 500, but in my lifetime or my career, the 500 was the first one they came out with, and then they went from the 500 to the 400. I don't know why they went to the 400. There's a lot of 400s out there, especially in this market, and they had the 400 and 600. All three of those, the 500, 400, and 600, it's all different. So you'd have to. I have the tools to download the parameters. If you've got an old drive, I've got the tool to download all the parameters and highlight them, and then when we put in the new drive, we can plug in all those parameters into the new keypad. So there's that.
I've had a few times where that thing broke, so I had to buy a new one.
This?
Yeah. So does the new one store the data by just plugging it in, or you have to?
No, if you plug it in, really just think of this as a graphical user interface. You just plug it in and it runs the drive, because all the parameters are in the drive. But what you do is once you get it talking to the drive, then you back up everything in the drive back to here, so you have a backup in here. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a graphical user interface with a thumb drive connected to it. And we have we've got a ton of guys around town. Mac Miller's got at least 6 or 8 guys, 10 or 12 guys that are all certified startup techs for this. So if you have any issues, problems, they're our first line of defense.
If we start having a pump problem instead of a motor problem, is that going to read it with a difference in current flow?
If you start having problems with the pump, we've got overcurrent protection in here. So if it starts to go above the threshold of the, we enter in the full load amps for the motor. If it starts to bump up against that, you're going to get those alarms. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a really good motor protector. I've had a number of startups where I've gone in and gone to start up the drive and immediately get a ground fault. And everybody says, oh, your drive, there's a problem with the drive. No. 99.9% of the time it's a problem with the motor. It's either grounded inside, there's a problem with the leads going to the motor. So, and this, if you didn't have this here, you probably would have burnt up your motor. So these are really good protectors for that. So believe whatever comes on this thing, believe it, and don't try and bypass it. We had somebody kept having a ground fault. I think it was either a commissioning agent or a balancer was having a ground fault with one of these, and it had a bypass. So instead of figuring out what the ground fault was, he wanted to get his job done, so he put it into bypass and blew the motor. So, because he went by all of the safeties that are in here. Anything else? I'm going to leave you my card, just so you have it. And you can pass it around. Anybody else who wants one? Are these the only two drives? All right.
Cut. Actually, I'll get a video card.
Here, I'll leave you guys. I'll leave you a couple cards there. Anybody else need a card? You can take one.
Yeah.
You're a man.
When we finish filming, I have